Tracking the Amish Quilt. I came on it at the Whitney Museum in 1972. An art-fogged curator straying wide of field discovered it first. Pennsylvania, Amish, bars, circa 1860. Amish? Where had I been? My neighbors? Did Elmer and Lizzie and children, did bundles of children sleep under the likes of this brooding blue statement? At 9, I stopped to pick up Lizzie for the drive to 9 Points, where her mother will show me a quilt for sale. Waiting, I watch Elmer bend, threading the rows with seed, covering his straight design. God, it's now I glimpse another quilt, ragged beauty thrown out by the barn. Speak not what might have been, no, what was and is no more. Lizzie says, "Oh, that old thing, you may have it. It's worn out. What are you looking for?"
In the painting that is over there in the corner, it's called Amish 5. This occurred about 74, I believe. And it occurred right after we became acquainted with Amish quilts. I'm not sure what produced this idea, but I was interested in the idea of a marking on a prescribed pattern.
He begins in a place in central Pennsylvania, surrounded by nature, the earth, the culture of Lancaster County. His introduction into the world of fine arts is something that he seeks out.
If you want to talk about my beginnings, it would have to be 1952, when I went to Penn State.
I mean, one of the things that's interesting about Warren Rohrer's relationship to Penn State is that this is where he was told he was a modern artist. The teachers in the summer school here were the people who introduced him to this idea of modern art that could be something other than a picture of something, that could use gesture and texture and these kind of abstract formal qualities.
You should see this immaculate farm where Lizzie grew up. Removed from main roads, it forms a hollow to its hill, completes itself. How they plant flowers here, according to authority. How they love and tend the straight rows of vegetables forever, naming each variety, saving its best seed, replanting endlessly, endlessly. We hear an unearthly commotion. A heavy iron machine, dragged by 6 mules, passes on its way to the barn. Men, animals, machine make noises. A daughter-in-law approaches, asks if we want to buy yesterday's bread. Where is it? My naive Rothko quilt, the beautiful, mysterious quilt for which I came, for which I loiter.
This exhibition is certainly very much about mark making in the context of modernist painting, in the context of abstract expressionism and minimalism. He's also thinking about the visual culture that he knew very well, that he knew intimately, in fact, and that is the visual culture of Pennsylvania German or Mennonite culture. But he and Jane collected materials from this culture. They collected painted chests, Amish quilts, and if you look at those objects, which we have brought into the exhibition, you can see that there is an absolute love of making marks for the sake of making marks. Clearly these are utilitarian objects but they are aesthetic objects as well. And I think that both Jane and Warren appreciated a kind of labor, an attentiveness, a meticulousness, a love of detail that went into adorning these surfaces.
When we got the quilt out the other day, one of the quilts that's going to be in the exhibition, and we actually had it spread out on a bed, and it was a little bit rumply. The quilt looked like a field. The quilt starts to look like the fields start to look like the quilts. They both look like the paintings in a way that is softer and more kind of domestic and more agricultural than the kind of repetitive motions associated with machines and technology.
Warren in particular saw the quilts as being rooted in the land, this sort of subconscious. By being around the fields, a quilt like this bars quilt, could kind of emerge subconsciously because it looks so much like the landscape in Lancaster County. He painted Fields Amish 1, which really bears a strong resemblance in its composition, and that it shares these bars and it shares asymmetry. Warren did see a connection among this sort of very meticulous, tedious stroke that he used that sort of looked like a seed. He even sometimes referred to it as a seed or a stitch, and the sort of very fine stitches involved in this quilt.
I think there is a really interesting relationship between some of Rohrer's paintings and the quilt. And of course, even some of the field paintings, like White Wheat, have gestures reminiscent of grains, but also dots, dots of color punctuating those grids of small patient marks. And those dots can also be thought of as kind of quilting points. And so those points kind of punctuate and sew together the fabric of the painting, just very much in a quilt-like way.
Suppose the small facts of my life are scattered, that I must look for them down these side roads as though they were lambs, forgotten, left out in the meadow. Mind,